Thanks for joining us for another episode of How Government Works at All Levels, Local, Federal, and State. Today I'm interviewing Knox County School Board member and Chair of the Board of Education, Kristi Kristy. Kristi, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm happy to be here.
What does a school board member do?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of times people think we do more than what we actually, or have control over more than what we actually do. We hire a superintendent. That's one of our biggest jobs, which we just recently did. Your school board members cannot call off school for snow, which a lot of you get a lot of calls about that. If they're predicting bad weather, everybody's like, "Oh, are you going to call it?" Or, "Oh, my road's bad." That's not what we do. That would be the superintendent.
And he's the one that's actually in charge of day-to-day operations of the school, right? He hires and all that sort of stuff. What about curriculum? Who's in charge of setting that?
Well, a lot of that's set at the state level. We have to follow follow their guidelines in the State Board of Education. And then we will have committees that will adopt textbooks. And of course, we will approve that recommendation through the budget. Once they have a recommendation, it'll end up in the budget, and that's how the school board will approve that, textbook. But a lot of that's already preset at the state level.
Yeah, Tennessee is a little unique because in many states, the state actually runs the entire thing. And then here you have a state board of education, a local board of education. Yeah. How do you become a school board member?
Well, it's not a lot different than becoming a mayor, right? Except you do run for election in a smaller community most of the time. We don't have that large school board members, so you just pick up a petition and get your signatures. And school board members are not term limited, and that, of course, is set at the state as well. I'm not really sure why school board members aren't term limited. I have been told by people at the state level that in some of your really, really small communities, it would be hard to get school board members if they were term limited. So
you're also chair of the school board. Can you describe both how you got that position as well as what your responsibilities are as chair?
So every September, the school board will reorganize. And basically, your school board members, your 9 school board members, will take motions from the floor for a chair and a vice chair, and then you're just voted on by your fellow school board members.
And what are the responsibilities of the chair?
Probably one of the biggest is the chair and the superintendent set the monthly agenda. So we will determine what items we need to address. A lot of those are pretty standard, budget items and things like that. But sometimes things come up where people might want more information about things, or we feel like we need to have a community discussion on a topic. Sometimes it's things like rezoning. We saw that with the new school out west recently. And so when we feel like there is a need for a greater community discussion on that, a lot of times we will add those to the agenda as well.
I am really excited about the 865 Academies and the transformation that's going to bring about. What are your thoughts on that program?
Actually, career and technical education is what made me want to run for school board in the first place. And that's an area I'm passionate about. I think it's just the cohesiveness of it, having avenues to get our businesses and industries involved, more exposure to students, to the careers that we do have available. A lot of our students graduate not really knowing what they want to do. Even with my own kids, I had one started out as pre-med and wasted a year of college to find out he really didn't want to be pre-med. So I think this will help our students just know what their skill levels are. There's a lot of aptitude testing and things like that go into it, and just exposing them to what's out there.
that's what I'm most excited about as well. Is I feel for years the educational system, and this is just a general statement, it's not a criticism certainly of anybody, but it's kind of pigeonholed kids and said, okay, this is the pathway to success, and it's the same for everybody, and that's not the case. I think that we need to expose our young people, and sometimes our not so young people, to as many different career opportunities.
The other great thing about this model is that we are bringing in people from various industries, right? So, maybe a student's in a marketing pathway, which, what industry doesn't need marketing, right? And you might have someone from, a Dollywood or somewhere come in, and maybe a student will say, I want to work in hospitality, but maybe not the marketing end of it. So they're still getting that exposure regardless of, the pathway they're in.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Superintendent Ryswick about this very thing, and that's what I asked, and he explained it that way. There's lots of opportunities, and even though pathway may be named a certain thing, there might be some opportunities outside of that for the same industry. Mm-hmm. What's the best thing about being a school board member?
Graduation, I would say, and I love going into my elementary schools. I love reading, especially kindergartners are a lot of fun, especially to read to. And then, of course, seeing our young adults walk across the stage at graduation. That's always the highlight of the year for me is when our students get their diplomas.
Well, Kristi, thank you for your time today. I really think that school board is one of the toughest jobs around. So thank you so much, and thank you for your service to Knox County.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.